Just jumping in here quickly to let you guys know that I have recently created a Facebook group for listeners of the Live, Train, Perform podcast. So this private forum is the place to connect with other podcast listeners and guests, as well as to interact with myself and other coaches who have provided content for the Coach's Corner episodes. So in this forum, you can ask questions, which I can then answer in the group, or I can use them for episodes for my Q&A sessions, post relevant articles, you can share memes. The goal is to create a network of like-minded people so that everyone can interact with each other. You guys, the listeners, the audience members, can interact with a network of professionals in the fitness industry that have provided good quality content for the podcast. To gain access to this private group, all you need to do is leave me a rating and review. What this does is allows me to bump up the ratings, draw bigger names, bigger guests to the podcast for your listening pleasure. Once you've left a rating and review, take a screenshot of that, send that through to my Instagram at coach_Kobes, Kobes. Once you've done that, go onto Facebook, type in Live, Train, Perform. That group will come up, request access, answer the 3 questions, and I will grant you access. I am in the process of building out my online business. One of the income streams is going to be from the Facebook forum. So I'm going to be allowing 50 people into that forum for free. After that, it will be paid access only. So get in early, be one of the OGs. Thanks, guys. Much appreciated. Hey guys, welcome to the Live, Train, Perform podcast. I'm your host, Sean Kober, and joining me today is my man, Jamie O'Donnell. I got Jamie on because I actually did record an episode covering the last couple of months of my life being in fight camp with Petr Yan, leading into his UFC bantamweight interim title that he won over the weekend. And that recording that I did was probably a little bit lackluster. So I decided to get Jamie on to legitimately ask genuine questions that he's interested in. So Jamie's been on before, great guy, one of my friends, has his own podcast as well, great communicator. And Jamie, I couldn't think of anyone better to get on and have a conversation with, brother.
Cheers, man. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to hearing all about the last couple of months, mate. It's been, like I messaged you on Instagram on Sunday when the fight went down in New Zealand. And I don't know, man, I was real proud to see you up there. Like, it sort of felt like that was the place where you belonged to be. And to see you in the corner after, all the years that you've invested in Peter was pretty awesome, man. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. Yeah,
thank you, brother. I really appreciate it, man. The messages that have come through over the last couple of weeks have just been overwhelming, man. Like, we were talking a little bit offline just now about like the come down, because it has been almost 3 months, man, that I've been in camp. And obviously, that culminated on the weekend with Yan walking out of the octagon with the title, man. And, it's been the last couple of days has just been kind of processing it all and replaying things back over in my head and, kind of going through my own after action review and going, all right, if this comes up again, what would I do different? What can we improve? What did we do really well? But obviously a lot of emotions that have gone on. And this last couple of days, I've actually needed a little bit of downtime because I'm quite introverted and I've been like in camp with these dudes for 2.5 months, man. And, I was in Russia, mate, and they don't speak any English. They've got enough English between them. There was like 6, 7, 8 dudes, at any one time, but they've got enough English between them to be able to like get the main points across to me. But other than that, they're all speaking Russian, so I'm, 5-6 hours a day with these dudes, not being able to speak to them. Like, it was really cool, man. But then I also needed a little bit of time all right, I need to unwind. I need to recharge my batteries. I need to have some time in solitude so I can, refresh and recharge after, all the crazy emotions that have gone on.
I bet, bro. So much energy as well. Like the biggest stage, like fighting is the ultimate clash of energies as well, and you're investing so much in it, so I can only imagine. So let's go back to the start, bro, because I'm really interested. When I was in Thailand in 2018, you and Peter were just starting your journey together, and he hadn't made his debut yet. And I remember walking up the stairs to the gym, and you guys were doing shuttles up and down the stairs, and there's this dude who just clearly was switched on, training like an absolute madman, and you guys were, you could tell that you guys were well engaged at that point. But that was before really Peter had burst onto the scene, and then it's been a crazy couple of years where he went on to win a title, and then obviously for the last fight, got the title taken away again, and then he's come back, he's won the interim title. He's got to the top, the top of the division. He's clearly the best guy in that division. But you guys, you've been part of that journey the whole time. This is the first one that you've done with him outside of Thailand. So you traveled to Russia. You spent 6 to 8 weeks in Russia, in his environment, which I'm sure, you get more exposure to his family and his world, and then you spend a bit of time in Dubai, and then Fight Island, and then the fight. So take me back to the beginning, man. How did it come about, and what was it like heading over to Russia and putting yourself in a completely foreign environment, like you say, with different language barriers, people that you didn't know, none of your normal environment around you? Speak to that for a bit.
Yeah, man. First of all, thank you for, giving the audience that insight, because it has been many years in the making. And, to give the audience a little bit more context into that, I basically had been at Tiger for about 8 or 9 months at that stage. I had a 2-month intern contract. Had no idea what I was going to be doing. Just walked out of a 5-year relationship. And, part of the reason for leaving was because I wasn't getting the opportunities that I wanted. And, I had to put myself in that position at Tiger in Thailand to take up any opportunities that did come up. So, I had that 2-month intern contract. After 1 month, got offered a full-time job. So I was very lucky to be in the right place at the right time, and grateful to be given that opportunity. And about 4 or 5 months later, the previous head coach ended up leaving, took up another job. So I ended up getting the head coaching position. So I'd been at Tiger for maybe 9 months at this stage. And, coming from military background, coming from a rugby background, I hadn't worked with any professional fighters before. So I was using that time to, invest, and I was training some of these fighters for free, so that I could build some experience and get some knowledge and, build out these frameworks that I had used with other athletes, but, hadn't actually had an opportunity to apply them and see if those principles worked with professional fighters. So I was investing that time and energy and effort into those guys. And I remember coaching a 9:30 combat conditioning class one day, probably would have been early March-ish. And I finished coaching the class, and I was out the front of the office near the stairs there. You know what I'm talking about, where the car park is.
Yeah.
And Petr Yan was riding past on his scooter, man. He saw me, he stopped and looked up at me, and he goes, "Coach, I want to work with you." And I was like, "All right, sweet, man. Are you working with anyone else?" And he goes, "Yeah, I finished working with very broken English." I couldn't really understand what he was saying. I just knew that he wanted to work together. So he said that he was working with another coach at the time, and he said his rehab had finished with him. And he goes, speak to Sayat, who was his manager, who works at Tiger as well. So I walked in the office and spoke to Sayat, and he goes, "Yeah, man, this guy's just signed a contract with the UFC. He's going to be making his debut in June. He wants to do some work with you, but he's, obviously up and coming, doesn't have any money, blah, blah, blah." So I was like, "Yeah, man, fuck, dude, I'm more than happy to train the dude for free." So we all sat down in the office. I think it was the next day or the day after, had a conversation. "When are you making debut? How long do we have? Who are you fighting? What's your game plan? Blah, blah, blah." I'd seen him training in the gym for, a number of months prior to that. And I always thought, man, this dude's a fucking athlete. And then obviously walked into the sparring and watched some of the other MMA combat sessions. And I was like, he's an athlete, but he's got the talent and the skill to go with it as well. So, I was really excited for that opportunity, man. And, we started working together, and, he went on and had an awesome debut. And then from there, it just kept growing. Every time he came back to Tiger, I think we did 5 fight camps together at Tiger, including the preparation for the bantamweight title against Jose Aldo. And that was all happening through the lockdown period. So he was coming around to my place, man, sneaking in and fucking, putting him through a training session. Didn't have a gym or anything. I was just training him from home, man. So very minimal equipment, just using bands and, body weight stuff, kettlebells, and very simple training, but very effective. And, he was training with other guys, with George and Alex and those guys with his MMA, BJJ, striking coaches with Johnny. And then obviously went over to Abu Dhabi again and beat Jose Aldo for the title. He couldn't get back into Thailand for the title defense against Aljamain Sterling, so he went over to America, trained an American top team, flew Johnny, the boxing coach, over, who went through fight camp with him. After that fight camp, obviously he lost the belt through disqualification. And then I got a message from him in late July. I woke up one morning. I remember this, man. It was a Friday morning. I woke up, had a message on WhatsApp. Coach, can you come to Russia? Is this possible? Do you want? And I was like, fuck yeah, bro. So I didn't reply to him straight away. I walked into the office, went and spoke to VWAT, the boss at Tiger, and I was like, hey, boss, got this opportunity. Jan's asked me to go to Russia. I'll obviously be representing Tiger Muay Thai, blah, blah, blah. And that was going to be 2 months. And then we're just speaking offline. I can't say too much about it right now, but I've got another project coming up. In the next couple of days, I'll be flying to India to work on my next project for the next month. So, it worked out really well, man. And I basically just had to convince the boss. I was like, look, I'm going to be representing Tiger the entire time. This is a great opportunity for me. It's a great opportunity for Peter. It's a great opportunity for Tiger. So, yeah, man. Then, had all the admin stuff that I need to sort out with the pandemic. Like, it was actually quite difficult to leave Phuket, get to Bangkok. There was no flights or anything like that. I had to fly a couple of hours out of Bangkok, get a car, drive in, apply for my Russian visa. Jan sorted out the invitation letter and all that admin from that side. But yeah, got that approved, and 3 weeks after that message came through, I was landing in Russia, mate.
What's it like when you touch down in Russia? You've never been before, right? The first time that you've ever been to Russia?
First time in Russia, man. So landed in a place called Krasnodar, it's actually quite a big city. I didn't think it was going to be as big as it was. And Jan picked me up from the airport, mate. And it was a 3.5 hour drive from there to this small place called Anapa, which is a very tourist driven town. It's like on the beach, on the coastline. A lot of families go there for holidays and things like that. It's good weather. So yeah, it was a 3.5 hour drive from Krasnodar to Anapa, and I was just sitting there just catching up with Jan, man. I hadn't seen him for a year or so. So yeah, that was really cool. And his English has improved dramatically. He's been taking English lessons so that he can talk to the media and stuff, man. So it was actually really cool to have those conversations with him.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to say, how much chat was there in the 3 hour drive?
Yeah, it was cool, man. So then we landed in Anapa, and, I met his other coaches. He flew in, striking coach, flew in grappling coach, guys that he'd worked with in the past that he knew from his childhood. When he first got into MMA, because obviously he came from his boxing background. So, met those guys. We had a conversation, as best we could to discuss, how long we're going to be there for, what the training camp was going to look like, what days we're going to be training, what time we're going to be training. And it was cool, man, because for me, it was almost like being back on a military base again, because the location where we stayed, it accommodated 3,000 people. It was like an all-inclusive resort.
Right.
So, there was meal timings from, 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock, and then 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock or whatever it was. So it's like team meals every day. At this time, we meet at this time, we have a feed, and then we've got training at this time, we've got training at this time, and then time in between is your own. So, it was pretty cool, man. Like it was right on the beach. There was a massive gym, all the MMA stuff, bags, like heavy bags, all the mats. There was an octagon there. All the gym equipment that we needed, tennis court, soccer fields, massive pool. Yeah, it was awesome, man. It was a really cool experience.
Yeah, it looked incredible. And so when you land and you get into that team meeting, because initially you're preparing for a fight with Sterling, right?
Yeah.
So you're flown over there to go to do the rematch. How much input, like what's your role in that moment? So you guys start piecing together a plan. You've got a range of different coaches. I guess you've all got to get on a level as a team as well. And there's language barrier. There's people coming from all different backgrounds and disciplines. And you guys have to get on a page and create a cohesive plan of how you're going to get this guy the title back. You're also preparing for Sterling, and there's the whole background to that. And I'm sure there's, I don't know if anger would be the right word, but there'd be a lot of frustration, I would have imagined, floating around based on what happened. So how does that work, and what's your role in all of that and pulling it together?
Yeah, man. First of all, I don't know. I didn't feel any frustration from Jan. Like, he owned that, bro. Like, he owned that, man. He went, I fucked up. I made a mistake. I'm getting another shot. I'm grateful for this, and I'm focused on the job at hand. So
yeah, true. You're right about that, actually.
Massive credit to him, bro. And, you know, it's funny, like fast forward to being in Abu Dhabi and doing the open workout, like his striking coach actually ended the
I saw that with the flying knee.
Got down on one knee and like put his pad up, and Yan hit it with a flying knee, and then like put his hands up and like started laughing and shit. And people asked him in the press conference after the fight, man, like, you know, people, you were joking about this and that, like, you know, what do you say about this? Is this any disrespect or whatever? And he was like, nah, man, like, it's something that happened, and it's a strike that I'm gonna live with for the rest of my life. So it is what it is, man.
It's really interesting because it's a great example of just having a growth mindset, right? To be honest, in that moment, it's been really interesting. There's been a few fighters recently, Paul Acosta being one of them, Vittori was another one, who have had genuine losses, and they won't accept the loss, which means that they can never rebuild.
Sean O'Malley.
Yeah, they can never rebuild from the right place though, because they haven't admitted that they've lost. So then how do you put a plan together to get better if you don't take the learnings on board? So interesting that you say that about Peter, because you never know. I mean, you're in camp, but you never know when you're watching through the media. You're only seeing little snippets, and it did seem like he handled the whole thing really well. And publicly he did, but it's interesting to hear that behind the scenes that was just genuinely the case. That speaks a lot about the guy. Yeah,
100%, man. And, you know, he's always had a really good team around him. And I think that's a massive one as well, is your environment, right? Like he flew in these guys. He flew in myself from Thailand. He flew in his striking and grappling coaches from his hometown. And then he flew in a heap of training partners as well. So going back to what you're saying earlier, yes, we were preparing for Aljamain Sterling. So that first month of fight camp was, you know, my role was to build. We went through like a stability, strength, and power development phase for like 3 to 4 weeks. And whilst I was going through that, he was focusing primarily on his grappling. So he had some really good wrestlers come in. A couple of guys from Dagestan came in to really test him with his wrestling, man, and you know, learn and develop that area of his game, you know, planning for Aljamain Sterling. And then the second phase of fight camp, or the next phase of fight camp, then we moved more into a little bit of stability work, and then more power development, power endurance work for a couple of weeks. And then we kind of transitioned to a little bit more focus on a little bit of wrestling, a little bit more focus on the jiu-jitsu, but then incorporated some more striking. And then the next phase was like speed, power, endurance, which then coincided with more striking based sparring with his training partners. So, you know, again, everything worked really well, man. And, you know, I adjusted my training to work in with what the other coaches were doing, and the other coaches adjusted their training to work in with what I was doing. You know, I speak about this all the time, man, with the, you know, the heart rate variability and the waking heart rate and all that type of stuff to get an understanding of, you know, how much stress the organism's under. And if someone's fucking, you know, when Yan and I first started working together years ago, you know, he'd come into strength and conditioning Tuesday, Thursday, and then he'd be going to train with his other coaches, you know, all the other days. And I would see him getting hammered by his other coaches because everyone wants the best for him, right? So they think they need to train him harder and harder and harder. But that meant that because I understood, you know, the importance of recovery, then I had to pull back on my training session. So I was still doing enough to, you know, get what I could out of him, get the most out of him, but without overdoing it and like taking away from his other training sessions. So the cool thing about being in camp this time is, you know, I'm with him the whole time. I can see what he's eating, and I can see how he's performing. I can see what his energy levels are like. I can see, you know, when he hasn't slept well. So I'm constantly adjusting the session, but then I'm having a chat to his other coaches as well. And, you know, watching his heart rate, as he's going through maybe his heavy bag work, watching his heart rate. And I'm like, walk up to the other coach and just be like, hey, give him a little bit of extra rest in between rounds so we can keep that technique solid, keep that intensity high, man. So, yeah, really cool experience, bro.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what is a normal day like? Because from what I saw at Tiger anyway, and, you know, we were living there for, I think, 9-10 months when you guys first teed up. So I did see you guys training together a lot. And he seems like the sort of guy that you could put 8 hours of training in front of him and he'll walk through it. What does an average day look like in fight camp? Like, how many sessions are you doing, and what's the protocol?
Yeah, so we were actually running a very similar program to what he was running at Tiger because that had worked well for him. we just pretty much ran that same program. So Monday would be like a positional. Monday morning we'd train twice a day. So we would do Monday would be 2 sessions. Morning would be like a positional grappling session. The afternoon would be like striking, technique, bag work, and then the next day would be a little bit more live rounds, grappling in the morning, and then a little bit of like more technical work, technical sparring. Wednesday was just kind of a mix of anything that the coaches felt they needed. Tuesday morning was the strength and conditioning. And then we went into the more technical work in the afternoon. Wednesday did a hard session, had the afternoon off, focused on recovery, went sauna, ice baths, etc. And then Thursday was a repeat. So Thursday was strength and conditioning in the morning, grappling in the afternoon. Friday was some more technical technique work, striking technique work, and then Friday afternoon was sparring, and then Saturday was another conditioning session. So I had him 3 times a week, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then Sunday was a full day off. But yeah, man, like we were just in camp the whole time, you know, so we barely actually left the camp. There was only a few days that we actually went out on a boat and had some chill time, or went to, there's a funny story, man. There was this old Russian dude actually. So the first recovery session, they had a sauna on the camp, right? So we went to this sauna and it wasn't hot enough. The boys didn't like it. So they contacted someone, and then we're in this car, we're driving to this place, man. We pull up at this fucking house. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I haven't even told anything. Yeah, coach, we go to Ruski Banya. All right, sweet, bro. So I've like rocked up to this house, man, and like walking around the back of this house, got introduced to this old dude. And we just walk out this shed, and I walk in. There's this like homemade pool and like homemade fucking wood-fired sauna, bro. So that ended up becoming like a tradition. Yep. We ended up going there like every Saturday.
Awesome.
For recovery, Saturday afternoon. So yeah, that was really cool, man.
That's awesome. And I assume, what's it like, just quickly, Peter's become a superstar in Russia. Well, everywhere, but I imagine in Russia it's crazy. So getting away and going to an isolated camp like that, is part of that just getting away from the public so you can focus?
Yeah, 100%, bro. 100%. And again, tying back into what I was just saying, like there was only a few times that we went out and, went and explored and, had a look around and played the tourist card. But there was... As you said, bro, like it's been really cool to see his journey, his growth. I think when we first started working together, he had like 11 or 12,000 followers on Instagram or some shit, man. Yeah. And like now he's got 1.2, 1.3 million, and people are recognizing him everywhere. And it was funny because not only were people recognizing him, but they were recognizing me, and they were recognizing the other coaches, and they would see us walking along, and then they'd be kind of like looking, like meerkats, man, like looking around, like, and then they see him and then they come and like flock. There was one time we went to this place called 800 Steps. It was like on the coast. There's a massive cliff, man, like a heap of steps. I think it was like 1.5 kilometers of steps to get down to this pebbled beach. And we went for a cruise there, and he put some stories up. And then by the time we went down the bottom, hung out there for a little bit, had a swim and stuff, we walked back up, man. There was literally people running along the trail, bro, like pissing sweat, mate. Trying to find us, mate. And there was one guy, it was like a couple of guys got photos and stuff, and then they were leaving. Then another guy like literally like saw us and came sprinting up, man, pissing with sweat, probably run for like 1.5 kilometers already. And he's like, blah, 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 in Russian. I obviously couldn't understand what was going on. And then Yan said something, and then the dude like turned around and started running off, and then everyone started laughing, and then they yelled out to him, called him back, got a photo and stuff, and I was like, what just happened? And they're like, oh, that dude just came up, asked for a photo, and Yan was like, run down the bottom of the steps and then come back up and I'll give you a photo. And the dude didn't even hesitate, mate. He just took off and started running, man.
Oh, how good.
But that's another cool thing, man. Like, people, and I was the same, like, fucking Russians don't smile. They don't have a sense of humor, mate. But being in camp the whole time, mate, I was laughing, man. I was laughing so hard. I couldn't even understand what the fuck was going on most of the time, right? But just, as you said, like feeding off that energy, man, when you don't have that verbal communication to rely upon, you start relying upon,
body language and
body language. And, the energy and shit, man. Like there's there was so many times where I was laughing really hard just because the other boys were laughing.
And you don't even know what you're laughing about.
Happening, man. Yeah, I was just laughing because they were laughing, and I was feeding off the energy, man.
Yeah, oh, that's cool, man. And how much of I guess it's something you prepare for in all fight sports is a change of opponent at any minute. So I'm sure it's something, that's not too new to Petr, but given the build-up, given it was for a title, given it was the rematch, what was that process like? Because I was messaging you on Instagram when you first got over to Russia, and when it had first changed, the opponent had first changed, and you said, Petr messaged me and said, "Coach, don't put too much up on Instagram because Sterling will pull out," or something along those lines. So he was kind of prepared even before the pull out for that to happen anyway. But what was that situation like? Then you change and you get Cory, and then you sort of got to, I guess, rejig things a little bit in terms of the strategy and go again, right?
Yeah, look, man. Yan knew from the start. He said to me, he goes, "Sterling will pull out."
Yeah.
And, not because he's a bitch, maybe. Who knows? But, he did have neck surgery, man. So there is a legitimate reason there. And he thought that he was going to be ready to go October 30th. Obviously got back into training camp, couldn't perform the way that he want, couldn't recover the way that he wants. So legitimate reason, man.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Here's the thing. Like, would you prefer to, see Yan demolish Sterling and then Sterling have these excuses of, I wasn't ready, didn't have enough recovery time? Or do you want to see him at his best?
No, you want to see two guys at their best. So, as far as that decision goes, it was a good move from him. Probably more just the way he carried on in between that. Maybe takes a bit of credibility away from that, though.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's a legitimate reason, but that doesn't take away from him being a dick at times. So, whatever, man. It is what it is. But I want to see Sterling at his best, mate. And
yeah, we all do.
I would imagine that's probably going to happen. Don't quote me on this. Like, I'm not going off any sources or anything but I would imagine it's probably going to be, late February through to late March, somewhere in that region. And I'm pretty sure Yan's going to come back to Thailand because the borders have opened up a little bit and made it a lot easier. So I'd imagine he's going to come back to Thailand for his next fight camp and probably fly in some of those same guys that were in training camp with him. But in terms of the training and how that changed, man, it didn't really, bro. We focused on Yan. We focused on getting him into the best shape possible to be able to fight the fight that he wanted to fight, no matter who's in front of him. And that's what he's really good at. He's very intelligent. He adapts to whoever's in front of him, and yes, he's got a game plan, but he's very adaptable, man. And he figures out, he always everyone always says he starts slow and finishes strong, man. That he uses that first round or two to kind of gauge people's distance, have a look at their movement. Yeah, he's just making judgment calls, man. And then he comes out and he's like, and then he's found his range, he's found his game plan. He's like, all right, starts fucking pulling shit off. So, nothing really changed in terms of the preparation, and it was relatively early in fight camp. And like I said, we did that first phase was very heavily focused on the grappling side of things. So once he pulled out and then word came in that Sandhagen was stepping in, it was going to be for an interim title, then, we had that grappling base built. So then it was more about like the striking, the conditioning. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man. It's interesting because what you're saying about his IQ, I mean, you can see it happening in that fight with Cory. Like the first couple of rounds, it's hard to see anyone beating him over 5 because maybe in 3 you can win the first round and then maybe get lucky in the second and put enough pressure on him where you win the first 2 rounds and then he's got to finish you in the third and you can't do it or something. But over 5, that guy's going to use the first round every time to get a read on his opponent, and then it just accelerates round after round after round. And between his IQ and his ability to read and get a game plan together in the moment, not rely on a game plan, to be able to read what's happening and then adjust, and his ridiculous conditioning base that he's got a motor. He could go 10 rounds and he's tough. How do you beat the guy?
I mean, that's the piece of the puzzle that people haven't figured out yet, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, fuck, mate. Let's be honest. There's no secret. Right? Everyone knows what his game plan is. His game plan is to keep it standing. His takedown defense is amazing. I think he's only been taken down 3 or 4 times in his UFC career. Everyone knows he's going to keep it on the feet. So, and outstrike you. So, knowing what someone's going to do and stopping it from happening, they're two different things, And
yeah.
he's good enough to for everyone to know what his fucking game plan is, but also be able to implement it.
Yeah, because Sandhagen's like an incredible striker as well, and he fought a hell of a good fight. And
well, mate, it was an amazing fight, man. Like being cage side, bro, I was just in awe, mate. Like just watching it all unfold, and I was like, man, what a fucking amazing fight! What an amazing atmosphere, and it was so technical. Both guys were like, they were fighting their game plan, man. They were fighting their game plan, and Yan just happened to, be able to implement that a little bit better. One of the striking statistics that stood out for me actually was leading into the fight. I think their significant strike percentage was I think Jan's was 58% and Cory's was 56% or something like that. And then after the fight, the significant strike percentage, Yan was at 55, 56% and Cory was 36, 38%.
Yeah, wow.
So that was a telling stat for me, man, that Jan's defense is so fucking good.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, it was an absolute spectacle. I mean, obviously, Fight of the Year contender. It lived up to everything that people hoped it would live up to. What's it like? What was the day like for you? Because that's the first time that you've been in the corner. You always are part of the camp, and then in that last week, I guess Yan flies out of Thailand usually, goes to wherever the fight is, connects with the striking coaches and corners, and this time you were there to see the full thing through, which is bloody awesome. But what was the experience actually like when you're preparing on the day, and what happens behind the scenes, and what were you up to? Tell me about that part of it.
Mate, I'm getting nervous just reliving that, man.
Well, when you go to any live fight, it's an energy that there's not many live sports that can produce that same level of energy from a crowd, from an intensity perspective. And that's as a spectator, so I can't imagine what it's like to be invested that heavily in the guy that's fighting. I mean, I've been around local fights and been part of teams, and but at that level, I can't imagine what it's like. So talk me through it, man. I'm fascinated to know what the day's like. Yeah,
man. So just to rewind a little bit, give a little bit of context. So, obviously in Russia, we were there for, I think it was 6 or 7 weeks. We're actually supposed to be in Russia right up until we flew to Abu Dhabi, but started getting cold and windy. And it was a Thursday night, and Yan was like, Coach, maybe this weekend we go to Dubai. And I was like, all right, sweet. And then the next day he's like, yeah, pack your bags, we leave tomorrow. We went to Dubai and started training at Champs, UAE, where Tariq, the old BJJ coach from Tiger, he's working from there now, started his own MMA academy there. He's doing really well, by the way. Really awesome facility he's got there. We were staying in Dubai Marina, had a 5-bedroom apartment, 7 dudes in there. Got hooked up with this sweet Escalade, 7-seater Escalade that we were kicking around in. It was really cool, man. So it was the same thing, but not being on that camp, we had a little bit more freedom. We still had our meal timings together. We still had our training timings together. But probably that last 3 weeks, then Yan started focusing more on, the nutrition side of things. He was focusing on nutrition throughout camp, but then he really started dialing in, counting his calories, reducing his food intake, et cetera, et cetera. So, those last couple of weeks, we didn't see him as much. His energy levels were a little bit low, so he was trying to conserve energy so that he could get the most out of his training sessions, et cetera. And then obviously as it got closer to the fight, then that, started amplifying. And dude, that last week, man, I pretty much didn't see him. He was just doing his own thing. He was having his own meals, and, his family flew over, and he wasn't even really spending time with them because he was focused on the job, so he was away from his family for 2.5 months. But yeah, man, that last week leading into it, I was just taking it all in, mate. I had no idea what was going on. I'd obviously been to a number of UFC events as a spectator, but hadn't been involved with the behind the scenes and that fight week preparation leading into fight night. So yeah, man, I was just taking it all in and had no idea what was going on. I was just talking to the other boys. I was like, where are we going next? What are we doing now? What are our next commitments? And, Yan was busy doing his media commitments and things like that. And, we were just left to our own devices, mate. So I was just going to the gym, training, chilling out by the pool, going to the shopping centre with the boys, walking around, just taking it all in, man. And, there's all the other high profile athletes that are kicking around, the hotel as well. So I was just enjoying that process. And come fight day, it was bizarre, mate. Like, because, you know, obviously being a spectator, I'm always one of those guys. I'm not one of those people that goes to the stadium just for the main card, man. Like, if I'm going to an event, I'm fucking getting there prior to the first fight happening.
Yeah,
I want to like take in the whole thing, man. I want to take in all of the atmosphere, and I want to see it build, man, to that crescendo of the main event, you know? So, you know, obviously not experiencing that, being in the corner, like, my roommates, they left to go to the event at like 5:45 for a 6:30 kickoff. And dude, I was in the hotel until like 10 o'clock, man.
Right.
You know,
So
I didn't go downstairs to go to the stadium until 10 o'clock. So I'm just sitting in my room alone, man, like twiddling my thumbs. And I was like, fuck this. I need to go to the gym, man, and burn off some energy. You know, so I went to the gym, got in a pump session, got a little party pump on, and then walked downstairs, met the other boys. And like, maybe only the third or fourth time I'd seen Yan that week, man. I walked up to the boys' rooms, gave them a big fucking bro hug, and then we all walked down together and jumped on the coach and went to the arena, and then pretty much straight out the back into the change rooms and started the warm up, like fairly slow process. And then obviously as it got closer and closer to fight time, we started ramping up the intensity, and then we're walking out, man. And then it was cage side. Dude, funny story, actually, because I've never been in the corner before, right? I got no idea what the fuck's going on. So it was a week before, bro. It was only a week before that I found out. I was talking to one of my friends. She was flying over from the UK. And probably a month or so earlier, I was like, yeah, you know, if you're going to come to the fights, make sure you book ahead, because I'm not going to be able to get tickets. Like, Jan's got fucking heaps of people coming in. Like, I don't want to be put in that position where I'm asking him for shit. So book your tickets ahead of time. I don't want any freebies. So I thought she did that. And then like a week before the fight, I'm talking to her on the phone, and she's like, oh, what are the chances of getting tickets? I'm like, no fucking chance. I'm like, I don't even know where I'm sitting. And Sayat had just flown in from Thailand. He was on the couch, and I was like, oh, yeah, Sayat, where am I sitting, bro? Where am I going to be in the crowd? And he looked at me like I was a fucking idiot. And he goes, you're in the corner, mate. And I'm like, oh, fuck. There you go. I'm in the corner, man. So I only found out a week earlier, bro, that I was in the corner. And I said to Yan, I was like, what's my role? Like, what do you want me to do? And he just looked at me and he goes, coach, you control situation. And I was like, all right, bro. So yeah, man, like rolling, sorry, mate, sorry to cut you off, but like there's more to that story. So like rolling into, you know, being in the corner, obviously walk out, you know, goes through the preparation, gets in the cage, man, like all the announcements and shit, take a seat on the stool, right? And I've been told beforehand, like only 2 coaches are allowed to go in the octagon between rounds. I'm like, all right, sweet. So these 2 guys are going in, striking, grappling coach. And then ding, ding, ding. The bell goes to end the first round. They go back to their corner and the other boys get up and leave. And I thought there was only 2 of them got up, leave to go into the octagon. But the other guy went on the outside of the octagon, and I'm just fucking sitting there on my stool, man. I didn't even go to the corner between the first and second round, bro. I had no idea what was going on. I felt like a fucking idiot. And then the next one, I was like, bell went for the second, to end the second round. I got up and went and like sat in the corner outside the cage, man.
I was actually looking for you on the TV. I was trying to watch it in between rounds to see what was going on.
Well, I wasn't there between that first one, mate.
I was wondering what, even like the language barrier stuff and that, and then whether you had a role in the corner during those times, or there's so many different complexities to it, you know, with the language barrier. So I was genuinely interested to know what you're up to in the corner, whether you were just sort of watching on, whether you had a role there.
Mate, I said to Sayat, I was like, because I said that to Yan, I was like, what do you want me to do? Like, what's my role? And he goes, coach, control situation. I was like, all right. But then I spoke to Sayat and I was like, hey man, like, you know, I've never been in the corner before. I don't know what to expect. Like, what should I do? And he's looked at me and goes, you don't need to do anything. He goes, Peter knows what to do. He knows what his game plan is. He goes, you're just there for support, man. Like he wants you in the corner.
I was about to say, so he goes, energy and presence.
Yeah, 100%, bro. He goes, you don't need to say anything. He knows what he needs to do. And he goes, in fact, like, we don't want the entire corner screaming. We want one voice.
You want a clear voice, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, man. And I was like, fuck yeah, bro. That's awesome. Like that even that meant more to me, and it gave me more understanding as to why I was there. Because initially I had fucking imposter syndrome. I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I don't know why I'm here. Like, why has he chosen me to be in his corner? He's got all these, you know, amazing fighters that he's been sparring with, that's been in training camp with him. Like, what am I bringing to his corner? Like, but as you said, it was that energy, it was that presence. I was about to say,
a truckload, bro. You've been in combat in like the most hardcore situations you could possibly be in when you're in the military. You're like, you've got a wealth of experience under immense pressure. It's an energy thing. It's a I don't want to say vibration and sound too wacky, but it's that presence that you bring.
Yeah, for sure, man. No, I definitely appreciate it. But yeah, the come down's starting to happen now, mate. Everything's, I've had a few days to process it all, and now I'm like, all right, breathe, relax.
What about afterwards? Because after the fight is an amazing fight, then you head back to the hotel room. I imagine that in general, that's just a weird, bizarre thing where you go from the stadium that's just electric, everything's going on, and then you end up back in the hotel room, often probably just with a few of you, but this time there's 150 Russians who have chartered a plane and come out, and you find yourself in a situation where you're back at the hotel with 150 Russians who are celebrating like mad, and again, you probably don't know what's going on.
Yeah, bro, like it was crazy, man. Like by the time we, exited the octagon, went backstage, there was all the media stuff, there was all the photos, all the videos, interviews, etc. Then there was the post-fight press conference. By the time we actually got back to the hotel, it was like 3:30 in the morning, man. And then, we walked in, as you said, there was 150 Russians had flown in together for support. And, we got back to the hotel and we were walking in, there was like, massive clapping and cheering, blah, blah, blah. And, I didn't know what was going on. I was just kind of like sitting there, just taking it all in. I was like, this is really cool, man. Really amazing energy. And, just kind of soaking everything in. I don't think it really sunk in what had happened. And, the whole night, yes, I remember everything, but it was kind of like a blur because it was my first time. Energy levels were high, adrenaline was high. Obviously emotions were high as well. So, by the time everything kind of died down, we went back to Jan's room, and it was probably like 4:30 in the morning, man. And, it was just the team there, just the coaches and his training partners. And we just sat there, had a conversation, gave him congratulations, and that was pretty much it, bro. Like, didn't even have a drink or anything. By the time I got to sleep, it was probably 5:30 in the morning, and my brain was just replaying everything. And then, I only had like 4 hours sleep, and then we were up, had breakfast together as a team, and then started making our way back to Dubai and had a couple of hours chill time, and then had a team dinner on Sunday night. And then, since Monday, I've just kind of been chilled out a little bit and just kind of spending some time alone. And but yeah, what day is it? Friday. So tomorrow we go to Dennis's fight. So the team will be back together. Some of the guys have already flown out, but some of the guys are still here. So we'll get back together as a team tomorrow and go over and watch Dennis fight. And he's on the cusp of breaking into the UFC as well. So there's going to be some scouts there. If he wins this fight tomorrow night, then it's highly likely that he'll be breaking into the UFC as well, man, which is really fucking cool.
Awesome, man. That's cool. Now that you've had like a couple of days to sort of reflect on it, I'm assuming one of the most incredible experiences of your life, the entire thing from start to finish. If you had to pull out a handful of learnings for yourself based on being around all those high-level guys, the coaching, the culture in Russia, like everything you've experienced over the past 8 to 10 weeks, are there a few learnings that you've taken on board that stand out for you?
Yeah, man, a big one that's come up for me that I'm really grateful for is the investment, and trusting in the process. Because, the reason I say this is because, as I mentioned earlier, when I first started working with Yan, Sayat was like, hey, man, the dude's, up and coming. He doesn't have any money. Can you train him for free? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, this is an opportunity for me to test out my systems, build out my frameworks, and figure out what works and what doesn't work with these high level guys. And I think it was like 2 or 3 fight camps later, he'd had a couple of fights in the UFC, had done quite well, went on a little bit of a tear, was starting to make ripples. After one of the training sessions in Thailand, he tried to pay me, and I was like, no, bro, don't pay me. I'm like, this is an investment for me. I'm like, you'll pay me back one day. You'll take me to one of your title fights, and, that's more valuable to me than money is. So, you'll pay me back one day, bro. And, I've got to be honest, like when, we went through the process of fight camp leading into the Jose Aldo, title fight, last year, I was a little bit disappointed that, I wasn't invited. I wasn't part of that crew that went over for that fight. But in saying that, I also understand the situation, and it was in the middle of a pandemic and no one knew what the fuck was going on. And, it is what it is. And, I gave myself that little pep talk, and I was like, it's cool. Like, you'll get this opportunity again, and, just have some faith in the process. And then the next fight camp was against Sterling. I didn't get invited to that one, and I was like, fuck, maybe I misread this situation. And I was a little bit disappointed, man. And I was like, all right, well, that's not on him. That's on me for maybe misreading the situation and thinking that, maybe my contribution was more valuable than it actually is. So I had to have an honest conversation with myself, and I was like, all right, well, what can I do about it? Nothing other than, keep doing my thing, keep focusing on my processes, building out my frameworks, and making sure that what I'm doing is getting better and better and better and more applicable to each individual fighter that I'm working with. And, to get that message late July, asking me to go to Russia, man, like that was validation right there, bro. I was like, cause Johnny, got back from that fight camp with Sterling, for the title defense where he lost the belt through disqualification. And I messaged Yan, I gave it like a week to let the dust settle and shit, before I messaged him. And then I was talking to Johnny, and Johnny was like, yeah, man, he was missing that snap. He was missing that power. He couldn't fight the fight that he wanted to fight, and he couldn't let his hands go as much because, he just didn't have that anaerobic conditioning. So there was definitely something missing there. And obviously Yan saw that and he felt that, man. So, to get that message in late July asking me to go into camp with him in Russia, man, like that was validation right there. And I was like, I could have been a fucking asshole and messaged Yan and been like, hey, I said one day you pay me back and blah, blah, blah. And, been a cunt about it and, fucked up that opportunity.
The entire thing, yeah.
Yeah, I just bided my time, man. I was like, all right, what can I do better? What can I do better? How can I bring more value? How can I, make a high value contribution? And, that message coming through and then getting this opportunity was just like, all right, man, like I'm, have faith in the process, bro. So that was a big learning for me.
That's awesome, man. I had no idea that all of that had happened over those past ones. I always wonder what the situation is there. And I knew Johnny had gone over. Obviously, he was in the corner as a striking coach for that title fight. But that's, mate, congrats to you. Like that is awesome to hear that side of the story, because it just proves that take ownership of your own stuff and go above and beyond to add value, and it works out, right? And like you say, trusting the process.
Yeah,
that's a way cooler story and a way better answer than what I was expecting.
Yeah, mate. So it's that investment for me. So many people, they expect something right away. They. Oh man, I could go like so deep in this about investment throughout my own career, through the coaching journey and all that type of stuff. But that, as I said, that's an investment for me, man. And I even said to Yan this fight camp, like, I didn't pay for anything throughout the entire fight camp. Like, he flew me to Russia. He sorted out my visa. All the accommodation, meals, everything was paid for, man. And like, even if I needed some money for a SIM card or, to get a few little bits and pieces, like, he paid for everything, bro. Not just for me, but for his entire fight team, bro. The entire team that was here. So, and then he actually paid me after this fight, and I was like, no, bro, I don't want your money. I was like, this experience has been way more valuable than money's worth. And he's like, no, coach, this is your job. I appreciate what you do. I respect what you do. I'm going to pay you for this one, blah, blah, blah. But man, like, it's just been a fucking incredible experience. It's been a journey that I'm going to cherish for the rest of my life, mate.
Yeah, man, I can imagine. Do you have a favourite moment that stands out for you, or favourite moments across the last 10 weeks?
Yeah, man. One that stands out was after the fight, going through all the media commitments, the photos, videos, interviews, etc. We were sitting there in the at the back of the room in the post-fight press conference, and Islam Makhachev was up prior, talking about his preparation, blah, blah, blah. And Yan came over to me with the belt around his shoulder. He gave me a hug and he said, "Thank you, coach." And man, I'm getting teary fucking thinking about this. But, I said, man, I'm very proud of you. Like, what an amazing experience. I'm very grateful for, inviting me into your inner circle and giving me this opportunity, man. And he looked at me, bro. He had tears in his eyes, man. And he's like, "Coach, I'm very emotional right now." I'm getting teary now, mate. But yeah, that was probably one of my favorite moments, man, was just kind of like having everything culminate in that one experience.
Yeah, that's awesome, bro. I mean, like I said, when I messaged you after the fight, having seen from the beginning of your relationship through to winning a world title, which is obviously what every coach, when you set out with an athlete, that's what you want to do, right? You want to reach the pinnacle. And I know that there's another fight to come, which is to unify the belts. But to see you in the corner for him to win that belt, knowing and being there when you guys first teed up, it was really cool to see. And I meant what I said when I said you belong on that stage, you know. So it's really cool to hear some insights from what it's been like for you behind the scenes, and particularly moments like that, because I think the investment thing is, you know, that's a really valid point. When you start a business, when you are an athlete starting out, you spend 5-10 years investing without a return before you actually get to the top of something in any industry. And I think that's an amazing reflection that you've taken away from it. But it also says a lot about your character, because not everyone's willing to make that investment and go above and beyond to add value. Everyone wants instant gratification. But to hear that you had those kind of moments with Yan and probably deepened your connection with him between coach and fighter, and man, you deserve it. I'm proud of you, bro. It's awesome.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that, man. It's a great point you just said about the investment. And, you know, I had one of my friends, Lizzie, you probably know Lizzie, right? Has been on the podcast numerous times. She messaged me, I think 2 days ago, and she's like, yo, what are you doing with your social media? It's blown up. Like, what are you doing different? And I messaged back and I was like, absolutely nothing. I'm like, I'm not doing anything different. Like, it's just... I'm pretty much, you know, I've been in fight camp with the the champion.
I just won a world title with Yan.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not doing anything different, man. But you know, it's as you just said, mate. Like every overnight success is 10 years in the making, mate. And you know, it is, things are, the last probably 6 months, 8 months ish. Like, it just seems I've had these opportunities coming up again and again and again and again. And like, I had 4 opportunities come up within like 2 to 3 months. And one of those was going to Russia in fight camp. There's another one which is the next project that I'm working on. I'll be flying out in 2 days' time to go to India to work on a project over there. I had a couple of other things that have come up as well. So, yeah, it's been a fucking amazing journey, man. And, you know, it just goes to show, again, going back to that investment, if you invest in yourself and you invest in what you do, and you are constantly trying to upgrade and add value and, you know, contribute to other people, contribute to your own life, which then allows you to contribute to other people's lives, then, you know, that perseverance is a massive one as well, man. And, you know, things are starting to pay off now, and I'm really grateful to, you know, put that hard work in for so many years, man. There's a lot of hard work, dedication, sacrifice to get to this point here. And, you know, people don't see all that stuff. And I essentially walked away from a 5-year relationship to go to Tiger Muay Thai and start working with fighters, because I wasn't having those opportunities where I was. And, you know, people don't see that stuff. They just see the tip of the iceberg.
All the time, man. And it's that compound effect, right? I had a business coach once, years ago, always stood out to me, stuck in my mind, but started to go well after like a couple of years of really not going well, and was actually struggling with the fact that it was going well. And he said, just accept it. It's payback for the years that you put in where you didn't get anything. And he said, and whatever it is that you do, there's a compound effect. And at some point you get paid way more than for what you're doing in that moment. But that's payback for the years of work that you put in where you weren't being rewarded. And I think that's probably a pretty cool note to finish up on.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. Dude, it's been a pleasure having a chat to you, mate. I really appreciate your insights and, you know, your conversational style of interview. So thank you very much for this, bros. It means a lot to me.
Thanks for inviting me on, man, giving me the opportunity to chat about it. And yeah, I could sit here and talk to you for another couple of hours, but I know you got to shoot away and deal with the client. So we'll wrap it up there, man. But wish you all the best. I know you got some exciting stuff coming up with this other project that you can't speak on yet, but I'm pumped for you for that, man. And really excited to see what the future holds with you and Yan and any of the other fighters that you're working with, because you're amazing at what you do, bro, and you deserve all the success that you get. So good stuff. Keep it going, brother.
Thank you, brother. Really appreciate it, mate. Appreciate you as well, bro. This episode was brought to you by Swiss 8, which is a proactive mental health program designed by veterans, initially for veterans, that has been pushed out to the wider community, that allows you to structure in and schedule their 8 pillars of health and wellness, including nutrition, sleep, time management, discipline, fitness, personal growth, mindfulness, and minimalism. This episode was also brought to you by Be Spunky, which is a male hormone optimization supplement that I've been taking for about a year and a half, and I absolutely rate. It is a TGA listed nutraceutical, meaning that it's made from all organic produce to help you manage and optimize your stress levels, which in turn increases your ability to improve testosterone production levels naturally. Use the code COBES10 at checkout for your 10% discount. All of those links will be in the show notes. If you got some benefit from this episode, please make sure you pass it off to your friends and family. I'd appreciate any shares on social media platforms. If you tag me or if you share it to your stories, make sure you tag me so I can share that as well. Any 5-star ratings and reviews are much appreciated. Much love, guys. Peace.